Marketing That Works is the podcast for business owners who want to move their brand forward so that they can bring in more sales and clients. I'm Danielle Harris, and I'm bringing you what I know from more than 12 years of experience in traditional and online marketing. I have created marketing strategies for businesses of all sizes, from multi-million-dollar corporations to early-stage online businesses. Remember, some marketers chase fads. I believe in mastering the fundamentals. Just in case you don't realize how important it is to legally market and grow your business, I'm back with a bonus legal episode this week. I'm talking to Ticora Davis today. She is an award-winning trademark and business lawyer and recognized as one of the most prominent voices advocating for culturally relevant legal representation for female founders and creatives of color. Her company, The Creators Law Firm, was recognized as the 11th fastest growing law firm in the U.S. by Law Firm 500 and boasts an impressive 98% success rate for trademark registrations. And in today's episode, we're talking about some heavy-hitting topics. We're covering making promises in your marketing, how to properly take testimonials and case studies, but not only that, we're going into being inspired by your coach to create frameworks and concepts of your own versus infringing on the trademark and copyright infringement of your coach. But most importantly, we're talking about how accessible it is to work with a lawyer, how you don't need to have a lawyer on an expensive monthly retainer, and how no matter if you've made $10,000 in your business or $250,000 to $1 million in your business, you need to have a relationship with a lawyer and how you can do that easily. This is a great episode, and you'll want to take note of everything Ticora has to share. So let's listen. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much for, taking your time. Ticora Davis, thank you so much for being on. Can you please introduce yourself to the people and let them know who you are? Let's get into this.
Sure. I am attorney Ticora Davis. I'm the founder of the Creators Law Firm. We are a boutique intellectual property and business law firm that have served thousands of experts and entrepreneurs over the past almost 8 years. And our sweet spot is really trademarks, but we obviously delve into other areas of intellectual property because those areas do affect our clients. And so a lot of people come to us not just for trademarks, but for general counsel, copyright services, as well as contract drafting, and just, again, general counsel about what they should and shouldn't do as they are doing and conducting business online.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to kick off. There are a couple of things that I have been seeing a lot in the online space, the online coaching industry, and that's around promises. And I know that that is an upcoming hot topic when it comes to the legalness of what it means to make a promise. So I just want to ask you, how can coaches and service providers just protect themselves when they're making promises about the results that they can get for their clients that their clients will achieve? I know that we really want to make sure that we're saying things that are going to attract people in. We're saying things that people are just going to yes, that's what I need, that's what I want. I want the big thing, I want the big result. But how can, as a business owner, these coaches, these service providers, these people who market themselves in general, but specifically online, how can they protect themselves so that their business is going to be safe?
Sure, great question. And this is something that a lot of online entrepreneurs, as well as those who have brick and mortar or they provide services in their community, are worried about. The FTC has really been cracking down on coaching, especially online coaching, since the pandemic because a lot of people have felt that they were duped or taken advantage of, and they got caught up into false promises and misrepresentation. So, if you find yourself in the space of being a coach where you do provide a transformative service to third parties, one of the general things that you need to do is to make sure that you are very clear and specific about what your client can expect. And the best way to do that is not just all on the sales page, but also within your contract. And so your contract should provide very clearly what your client is going to receive within the scope of services. What role are you going to play? And what's even more important, emphasize the client's role in achieving success. Far too often, when people do the advertising and those who have been caught up in alleged schemes or they've been sued by the FTC and then they have to refund millions of dollars, it's because they were not clear with respect to their program promise, and they created an atmosphere that, hey, it's so easy, anybody can do it, you're going to be able to make money very quickly. And they did not really emphasize the role of the client achieving success. And then you should also consider avoiding guarantees of specific outcomes or specific results. And so, if you, and that's why it's important to say, okay, the client's role in achieving success is going to be based on various factors that are subjective that you cannot always control. And it could be the market, it could be the client itself, it could be their ability to invest in various other areas. And so, just in general, to recap, if you are a coach, the top three things I would recommend to protect yourself is be clear about where your clients can expect, as well as what role you're going to play. Avoid guarantees of specific outcomes or results, and finally, emphasize your client's role in achieving success.
Thank you so much for that. I think that no, I think that's very clear. There are a lot of times people do want to say it's going to be so easy. It doesn't take forever. You can get this quick. I'm gonna help guide you. Da 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 da. And a lot of those things are true. You're just like, yeah, I am going to guide you. It doesn't have to be as difficult, but I know that a lot of the thought is that people want to buy a solution that's going to be easy, and
Mhm.
they don't want to necessarily think that they're going to have to put in all this work, and that if they knew the type of work that they needed to put in order to get the result, then they wouldn't buy, and then I wouldn't have a business, and it's not appealing, it's not sexy. So I just want to talk to you like, what do you typically recommend? What do you suggest to people when they come up with things like this? We're just like, well, like if I say like you got to do X, Y, and Z, is your standpoint just make sound just make the idea of doing the work sound sexier? Like what is your feedback to the people that might have that type of concern?
Right. And I think, if their main concern is, gosh, I really want to make this offer sound attractive, make sure that you can back up what it is that you are offering. Right. And so, yes, you can say, and you can even showcase clients who have had success with implementing your programs. You can do case studies, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But you also have to say, past results don't guarantee future results, right? And so looking at somebody else's story and what they've been able to achieve, they may be an outlier, or it could be something that is very common with those who actually participate within your programs. And so, again, I would definitely say you can make your offer attractive by showcasing what it is that you actually are offering. And then you have to, just not even from a legal perspective, you have to really dive deep into market sophistication. Consumers are much more educated now. And so they have the ability to pick, choose, and refuse who they desire to hire and go with, because the options now are quite abundant. And so if you are continuing to play in these waters, it's really not a blue ocean anymore. It's this red ocean, right? If anybody's familiar with the blue ocean strategy. And so I think it's those of us who are going to evolve and survive this era are going to be those of us who are innovative, but also who remain in compliance with the law and do not, play with fuzzy lines with integrity. And so, again, make the offer attractive. Do what you need to do. As long as you can back it up and continue to operate with integrity, you should be fine.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of times I like to tell my clients, what is the result that you're able to get the greatest majority of people consistently, time and again? What is the result that people are able to get? And a lot of times we really do. We want to talk about the outlier. We want to talk about the person that, if you're a health coach and you help people with weight loss, you want to say like, oh yeah, I helped this person lose 100 pounds in X amount of time, or I helped this person pay off, you know, $300,000 in debt and like all of these different things. Like we love those stories. Those are great stories to tell. But what are you typically helping people get? And what are their scenarios and their situations in which they are operating in? So if most of the people that are coming in, they're saving an extra $2,000 more than what they were saving before, talk about that. If they were, most of your people, they end up losing 25 pounds or so, then talk about that as well. Like people would love to know about that. And, I help people make that sound fun and
Yeah.
sexy because, my background, I was in concrete. And if I can make concrete sound interesting, like we can make losing 25 pounds be like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
But like, to your point of what you were saying before, how can we make sure that this is integrity, what it
Yeah.
is that you can actually do? And if you're telling those stories as well as, like, and these are things that people can do with doing the work, but no, these are the stories of the people, most of the people that come through my program, they are able to accomplish X, Y, Z thing. And this is something that I have a framework, a process in order to help people with.
I was even going to add to that, don't be afraid to tell stories, whether it be in your presentations, your pitches, in the marketing about why it didn't work for people. Is it because they did not put forth the effort? Was it because of the market conditions? Was it because they didn't have, a product or service to sell and they came to your program? I think when you can qualify leads and prospects better, that shows again that you really are becoming more of a master of your craft. I think sometimes people are afraid to speak about why things didn't work for people or why it didn't work out in the past. But doing that actually showcases to other people, wow, you know what? I'm not like this person. I want to be one of the ones that it works for. And it'll allow you to attract the people that you want in your program and repel those that you do not. So I think that there's nothing, it's perfectly fine to also speak about those people, of course, and balance that it did not work for and why it didn't work for them as well.
Yeah, why it didn't work out. And then also that really helps you in being clear on what are the conditions that are going to best help you be successful. And so you can have marketing that talks about like, here are all the qualities of people who do the best in my programs that meet the requirement of that. And then that could be its own version of, validation of, oh, yep, I belong in this program, or okay, I need to work on in order to be eligible to, or not eligible unless you don't have a requirement, but like more like, oh, in order to be able to really be effective, I know that I need to work on this. And once I get this in order, I know that I'm going to be able to have the results that we have. So thank you so much for clarifying that.
Absolutely.
No, we talked about a couple of things that I kind of want to pivot into, and a little bit of that was, testimonials and case studies and things of that nature. I would love for you to talk to me about what are some of the mistakes that people are making when it comes to getting testimonials and, just like case studies. What are some things that people really keep in mind so that they're doing this in a way that actually going to be productive and helpful and not going to get them in trouble?
Absolutely. I had a recent um, with one of my clients. It was a recent situation where she hired a company. They came in and they began to do work for her, and she was in the midst of the work. Like the actual scope of work had not been completed, and they literally did a case study on her business and published it on the website. And she's an accountant. And so, accountants, like lawyers and others, have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients to keep certain information private. And so this company, in their excitement to work with her, published an unauthorized case study. And so, and that case study, that testimonial, didn't have a disclosure. And so, generally FTC guidelines, what they say is that if you're going to post a testimonial, it has to reflect the endorser's true opinion. So the endorser is the individual providing the testimonial. You should not put a fake reviews. You should not attribute statements to individuals without their express permission, and that's the Consumer Review Fairness Act. It makes it illegal for companies to penalize people for posting honest reviews. So some of this is in there, and so you know the testimonial aspect and piece, you of course can use and post testimonials. What I generally do when I'm drafting contracts for clients is I make sure that there is a section within the contract that speaks about testimonials. If someone submits a testimonial, if information is received from them, then it can be posted. by the service provider, right? And it's okay if they submit the testimonial if it's summarized, as long as you do not change the scope and the heart of what was shared by way of the testimonial. And you actually could publish a testimonial without permission, but it still has to come with a disclosure that you're doing it without the person's permission. And most people just aren't going to do that. They're not going to say, hey, I'm posted this testimonial for Sarah, but she didn't give me permission. Generally, people just do it, and that's how they get in trouble. So, again, put a testimonial clause within the contract that governs your testimonial guidelines, what you can and cannot do with it, and how someone is releasing permission to you, and you don't have to pay them for the submission of their particular testimonial. A lot of companies who have gotten into trouble with the FTC and have had to give millions, if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of refunds, it's because they posted fraudulent testimonials and fraudulent reviews that either were not attributed to real people or just completely made up, or they took liberties with someone who actually worked with them and grossly expounded upon what someone shared or said, and they did not actually endorse them. So, in general, if you're using testimonials or case studies, completely fine. But I would always get express permission from my client to make sure that they're comfortable with me sharing that. Or if they're not comfortable with sharing their name, hey, can I still share the testimonial but redact your personally identifying information? We're not going to point back to your company. We're not going to say the name of yourself, or, hey, names of individuals were changed, or things like that. You can still post testimonials in that way, shape, or form by saying, we work with an accounting firm and the CEO said this, and this is posted with their permission, and their names have been removed to protect the privacy of our clients. I have a friend, and she is a professional organizer, and she came into my home, and she did a lot of professional organizing, and I didn't mind her taking pictures of the work, but she works with a lot of celebrities, and they make her sign NDAs. And so she comes in and she does an outstanding job, but she really can't post some pictures of their homes and some of the work that she's doing because she's bound and sworn to secrecy, right? But I told her, I said, you know what? You can still capture their testimonials and use that on the website. If you say, hey, this is how I'm getting other clientele, if you could do this and I redact your information, are you comfortable with that? And that's completely fine. And so, yes, absolutely use testimonials, but use them with integrity. Make sure they're backed up by a contract so that you have a guideline there. If you're going to post the testimonial, it's okay if you have to post by redacting someone's information if they're not completely comfortable with sharing. But also be sure to just ask. You don't want to just post and get yourself into trouble. Because with my client, when they posted the case study without her permission, it really put a bad taste in her mouth. She was very upset, and she really felt betrayed because she said, "Gosh, you guys are coming in and helping to organize the business and help with retention and things of that nature, but you're posting information without my permission, and you didn't even ask me." And so it's giving this endorsement, and I actually haven't felt the full scope and impact and power of the service you've provided, but you're doing this case study on me, how you've changed my business, and it's not true.
I agree. I think that there are a lot of times where people are doing things in a way where being able to be just truthful and authentic of what exactly is happening is a thing. And I also think that another thing that I see a lot that there's definitely conversation around is the idea of taking screenshots of people's activities. They're saying, "Oh my gosh, you helped me so much." Screenshot of that, and it gets posted up somewhere. Do you think of that in along the same lines of like a formal testimonial versus a screenshot? Hey, a client sent me this message, said that they love what was happening, what was going on, and think of that as a testimonial. Is that the same thing? Is that different? How should people think about and approach that?
Yeah, yeah. So it's still a testimonial because a testimonial by definition is like a statement that is either endorsing or approving, or it could be disproving of someone's experience, right? It's an actual or an accurate reflection of their experience, whether positive or negative. And even if someone is commenting that, hey, I'm enjoying this webinar, this was absolutely amazing. If you did not get their express permission to share that, or if that was not a part of the terms and conditions of them joining your webinar or your free training, then it's really not proper for you to use. But some people get around that just by way of doing those screenshots and redacting their name. And generally, you know, arguably that's okay. If you have a disclosure, right? If you say, hey, these are true and accurate statements of individuals who attended the webinar and how they felt and all that type of stuff, but we've removed their names to protect their confidentiality. That's completely fine because you posted the testimonial or their reflection with that disclosure. And so either you get express permission and you're able to post, or you do not get express permission, you post anyway, but it's accompanied by a disclosure.
Just to sum up, it sounds like no matter what, disclosure is the name of the game. I just keep thinking about how the pharmaceutical companies before, like they wouldn't talk about side effects of different medications, and then they became required to have to talk about things. And so there's just like, oh, this thing that will heal your foot could theoretically help you, end up losing a foot because of that. And they would like talk about all the different things, but we disclosed it. Like, not that you're doing anything that's like nearly like up at that level, hopefully not, but it's still just the cause or the thing of making sure that you're telling people what exactly is happening and is going on, and that just keeps your butt covered to make sure that you're not going to get in trouble. And I think a lot of times people think that, well, I'm like small potatoes right now. Like I'm not that big. No one's looking for me. But I also think that the habits that you build at the beginning are the habits that you start to carry out as you grow and expand. And growing into bad habits is not a good thing. So starting off right now with integrity, I think is just a great thing to have in mind.
Absolutely. I think the other a factor as well that I forgot to mention is when you're doing testimonials, it's like when you said it, it sparked something in me. Like, let's make sure that you need to make sure that the testimonies that you share are representative of typical results. Like, if 90% of your people are failing, or hey, if 90% of people who use this cream are breaking out in hives, but 10% are doing okay, yeah, that's not a typical result. It seems like most people have some sort of negative effect, or there's some contraindication with the medicine. Like, there needs to be a proper disclosure of that because it's not a typical result. When you begin to share like outlier results or results that are like, oh my gosh, only 1% of the people who experience this program actually get this, but I'm going to amplify the 1%. You're really not operating in integrity. You probably have some sort of deficiency in the program, or maybe that person who actually experienced it, they had way more than some of the other people who would normally come in. Here's an example of this. I just hired a sales representative in my firm, and they're doing great. They just got started, and the same company who provided me with that contractor, another attorney who follows my work, and I've mentored her. She went to them. She said, "I want the exact same thing Ticora has." Right? They told her, you don't have the foundational elements that Ticora has, right? You don't have this team, you don't have SOPs, you don't have structure, you don't have process. So even though you want what she has, before we're able to give you someone who can do that, you need to have things put in place so that if we share or we provide talent to you, they actually have something to work with. So that was great. Like, they were operating in integrity. They weren't like, yes, we're about to make more money from this other lawyer and we don't care her
Hmm.
experience. They said, wait a minute, the results that Ticora is getting is going to really be dependent upon the fact that she has some foundational elements that you lack. And so it was good that that company operates in integrity. Two, they understand how to qualify and disqualify certain virtual assistants with service providers and saying, prior to us, putting this talent in your firm, you need to do this homework. And then the person had to go and do the homework and did what they needed to do. So now they can actually provide that individual of staffing. And I think that, again, that's a great way to vet a client or a prospect and to say, this is not going to work for you because it works best for people who are in this position.
No, that is so good, and I think that's goes back to what we were talking about before. Like, what are most of the people doing? Like that's going to be your baseline of how you go and you set those things up. So thank you so much for that. I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to get into what people are offering within their own programs. I know that a lot of the people that I work with, their idea is like, okay, I want to come up with my own frameworks, my own practices, my own things that are like set me apart. But I've also had clients come to me and say, well, I'm creating these things, but I'm in this other program where I'm learning so much. And I don't want to be accused of essentially relabeling a framework that they had, and, like, it's my ideas, but, like, maybe I titled something differently, like, they had, like, all their things started with the T, and so I changed it, so, like, they're all starting with the C, but it's all kind of fundamentally the same type of thing, but, like, I came up with it on my own, I didn't mean to, like, when you're coming up with frameworks and policies and trainings and things of that nature, how can you make sure that you are not unintentionally copying someone else and what they're doing in their own intellectual property?
Absolutely. I think when we think about IPP or intellectual property protections, we have to first have a baseline understanding and knowledge of what is and what is not intellectual property. And far too often do people think that ideas and concepts are intellectual property when they are not. So you cannot protect an idea. Okay. It is the expression of the idea in the marketplace that can be protected. And so let's talk about some examples of that. Think of intellectual property as an umbrella, similar to or analogous to the umbrella of criminal law. We know that if someone gets their car stolen, it's a crime, right? However, so is speeding. It's just a different type of crime. It still falls underneath that umbrella of criminal law.
Mm.
So similarly, intellectual property has this vast umbrella. And so we have trade secrets, and a trade secret is like, oh, this is my super secret email list, or I have, my vendor list, my customer list, supplier list. Maybe it's your unique product formulas. And in some cases, it can even be a framework of how you approach work and how you do certain things. But people may not want to disclose publicly, maybe to third parties by way of a patent or a copyright application, what is the uniqueness of the recipe. Like the Coca-Cola formula is not patented or it's not copyrighted because that would have to be public record. And so that would destroy their competitive advantage in the marketplace, arguably. And so people protect trade secrets by confidentiality agreements and non-disclosure agreements. And so it's saying, hey, because you're either working with me, you're experiencing this program, um, I'm providing this service to you, you're going to be privy to our intellectual property. And this is our intellectual property that's already been identified prior to us working together. If you take this, if you use it, if you disclose it, if you breach this agreement, there could be financial consequences. So the remedy to prevent other people from breaching uh, confidentiality agreements is for them to pay money, punitive damages, to punish them, because we don't want people breaching these agreements. And if people don't have to pay money or if they're not damaged punitively, it's not going to dissuade people from doing it. So, again, that's what a trade secret is. We've also heard about a different type of intellectual property, which is nil, name, image, likeness. These are personality rights. It's someone's ability to control how their name, their voice, their face, their presence, how that shows up in the marketplace, and how it is associated with the promotion of products and services. And so that's a type of IP. Next is patents. So patents protect inventions, things that have a utilitarian function, a usefulness to them. Then we have copyrights. Think of copyrights, C&C. Copyrights protect content, right? So most coaches are going to start going in this realm of, okay, wait, hold on, I create a lot of content. Okay, you're probably going to have lots of copyrights. So a copyright is going to protect literary works and artistic works. So a literary work, think of it as a book or a presentation or articles or blogs, right? Whereas artistic work could be a podcast audio, photography, videography, choreography, sculptures, things that are artistic in nature, that type of content that when it's put into, it transitions from an idea in your mind into a medium and a format that other people can experience. That's when copyright actually attaches. And trademarks protect names, logos, taglines. So I think of trademarks protecting titles of things, the names of things. So I think copyright, CNC, content, trademarks, titles. And so if you're a coach and saying, gosh, I'm creating something and I want to make sure that I do not violate someone else's intellectual property, then you want to make sure that you come up with your unique trademark that identifies your framework, it identifies your product or your program or your service, and then also the copyright. How is your content differing from someone else's? And again, you can't really protect a concept like I'm the only coach that should have a 5-step framework. That's not something that can be protected. Um, and even if you're teaching the other thing is that coaches teach other people how to create frameworks. So you're saying, hey, you need to have a 3 to 5 step framework, and here step one, this is what you do, and it's great to use alliteration. There may be some similarities there, but as long as someone is not using exactly what it is that you're doing, it's likely not going to be copyright infringement. And I think that's you have to be aware of that if you are a coach, that if you're teaching other people how to set up their own coaching programs and set up their own format, they are going to likely take some inspiration from you. As long as it's not outright infringement, it's okay.
Yeah, I like I said, there are definitely a lot of people that I have worked with who that was a concern of theirs. And then there are people where they're just like they're doing something that looks very similar to what I do, and for a lot of things, they're very old concepts that have been out and around for a very long time. Like it's not new, but it might be a little bit different way of explaining it, but it's still like rooted in the same couple principles that everyone else is using. And to your point, it's your expression of it, and like is this a you copy and paste this over and like you were teaching it as if you are the creator and originator of it. Am I interpreting that right? Is that wrong? Correct me
No,
if I got it.
you're right. I have a client in the past, and she taught other people. I have a couple of clients who teach people how to make investments in stocks and things like that. And one of her students literally, I mean, literally, was like, "Okay, you created a spreadsheet. I'm going to copy this and put it in my program." Oh, okay. You had a video talking about that. I'm going to listen to your video and pretty much make a transcript and say it word for word for my students. She literally copied her worksheets, her spreadsheets, what she was saying, some of her exact posts. It literally was a copy and paste. And when we discovered it, we sent a cease and desist. And we told her this is copyright infringement. We removed her from the program. She had to pay a fee to my client, and she agreed not to create any type of go into that market. And so that was outright copyright infringement, not just plagiarism. It was just like, this is copyright infringement. You were taking her work like verbatim and going and teaching somebody else based off of her work. What was crazy was she even had one video, and it literally had her my client's logo. It's like a watermark on the document. I'm like,
Oh,
you're
that's
you're
bold.
you're a lazy thief. I was like, you didn't even. How you gonna be a lazy thief? You just chat. She said, I ain't making no effort. Whatever. I said, Lord. So that was really interesting, but it's so terrible when people do this, and it's heartbreaking for my clients who come and they're in a situation. Someone just hired me yesterday, and they're like, "You've been using this name. This other business just popped up, and they're about to launch next month, and we're telling them this is our name, and they don't care." Like, these people are ruthless. And it's interesting because I'm like, if you have a business that predates yours and they've been using a name uh, years prior, you would think that you wouldn't do it. You would think that someone would say, "Oh my goodness," when it's brought to their attention that they would stop. And my clients had filed a trademark prior to them. Thankfully, they didn't file it correctly. They
Mm.
self filed, and people make the danger of doing that a lot. They'll say, "Oh, I don't need an attorney for it because it's just a form." But it comes down to it. It's like you should have had an attorney because now you have hurt yourself or your rights. But the fact that they had a trademark, even if it wasn't exactly how I would have filed it, actually is helping them in this situation because they have prior rights. And so if you have prior rights and your trademark application is pending, you have standing to send a cease and desist. And in some rare cases, I even told them, I said, you could send a cease and desist to the landlord If that other company is using a facility and they're going to use your name and they're committing trademark infringement, you can also send a cease and desist to the landlord saying, listen, this property is being used to infringe upon, our business. And if you allow it to open, or if you continue to allow it to remain open, we are going to enjoin you as a party to the lawsuit because now you are complicit in infringement. And my clients were like, we can do that? I said, I know it's a little sneaky, but I mean, it's like heavy hitting, if it, because again, if these third parties are allowing infringement to happen and it's only happening because you've given a facility, that's not good for business either. And so, we're going to provide them with support, but it's really good to have relationships with attorneys. And I think if anybody could take anything away from our conversation today, begin to build a relationship with an attorney. And a relationship with an attorney does not mean that you have to pay thousands of dollars a month in a retainer. Why don't you just set a small goal for yourself to find someone who is an entrepreneurial attorney who understands what it's like to run and conduct an online business and set up maybe quarterly consultations. A quarterly consultation with an attorney might be 250 to 500 bucks depending upon the attorney and their market and what they specialize in. And now you can say, okay, maybe you make $1,000 a year in investment to build a relationship with an attorney and sit down in a consultative way and say, this is what I have going on. What do you suggest? That attorney, which a lot of us do, we have digital products or contract templates or can provide some general guidelines and guidance. But when you begin to build that relationship, people can learn, or an attorney can learn your business and anticipate what you need and provide you with resources. A lot of people are just so scared that the fee is going to be so high that they can't pay it, when ultimately it is quite affordable if you really think about it, where you're like, okay, maybe I'm technically investing 75 to 100 bucks a month on average to be able to speak with someone who can help protect my business and put me in a better position.
No, I think that's such a great point. I know that there are definitely people who have thought that either A, it is too expensive, or B, that they just aren't making enough money where it makes sense. It's like, well, I'm not making millions and millions, so like why should I bring on someone in that capacity? Like I'll do that when I start making more. But to your point, it sounds as if the best thing that someone can do is just start at some level, whether it's like that there's a template that they like and they go through and set up an appointment saying like, hey, these are all the things that I'm doing. What modifications do I need to make based off of, my business all the way up to, okay, yeah, I'm at the point now where I need a retainer and I like grow into, all of your other services. So I think that's such a great point. Um, I want to end off on talking about collaborating with people. I know that a lot of times people will decide like, okay, I want to do this event with someone else, or I want to bring someone in my business and we'll work together on creating something. How should people best go about having that type of relationship where they're going to be in your business a bit behind the scenes? I know that there are a lot of people that are just like, we're biz besties and we're just like handshake agreement. It's just like they wouldn't do that. Like we're cool. We'll fine. Like we'll all be good. And in the best of situations, like I hope that is the case for things. And it's just like, oh yeah, that they're not stealing anything. They're not doing any of those
Never.
types of things. But I want to know from you, like, what are the things that people should have in place, bare minimum, when they start to do any type of collaborations for like events, or if it's a joint venture where they're doing a partnership together, like what are the things that people should have in place?
Absolutely. So these people should definitely have in place are, um, one, you have to ask yourself a couple of different questions. What is the nature of this partnership or collaboration? Is it a one-time thing? Is it an event only? Or is it something that's a little bit more long-term, right? So some people, I've just seen really terrible things happen with partnerships that are really, really, really sad. And I'll tell you guys about it in just a second. But Sometimes it's best not to actually form a business with someone, but do a joint venture agreement. A joint venture is generally a contractual agreement where two companies or two individuals come together for a singular purpose. And again, it could be for an event, it could be for, just a very short or temporary time to accomplish a specific goal. And when that goal is accomplished, then the joint venture ends. This happened with my husband and funny enough, my law school professor, my law school professor is a real estate investor, and since she retired from teaching, she began to do real estate investing, and she took my husband under her wings. It's like, I want to mentor you, as we began to get into real estate. And so one of the things that she did in her mentoring program was she gave folks an opportunity to collaborate with her in a joint venture capacity on flipping a home. And so he had hands-on experience of flipping the home, and he got to manage the budget, and she did certain things, and he put up a certain amount of money and she put up a certain amount of money, and there was a contract and it was clear, and everybody's roles were delegated. And once the home was sold, then hey, here's your money and here's my cut, right? But when that stopped, the joint venture ended. Like, that was it. It was not a partnership. It literally was a joint venture for a specific person, specific purpose, and a set amount of time. And I think if more people would, prior to entering into partnerships, would consider a JV, that might actually save them a lot of headache and heartache. I was involved with a client who, it's amazing, brilliant, beautiful Black woman, sold several companies, but she was about to enter into a new venture that she really was unfamiliar with. And she brought in someone else who had a following that was much smaller than hers, but they had knowledge in a particular space, or so she thought. My client had put up 30,000, they put up $800.
Okay.
Client verbally said, you know what, I'll do 60, you do 40. And the girl was like, I want 50-50. And my client's like, okay. So couple, like 2-3 months into it, they hadn't made any money. My client is like, I'm the one packing up these packages. I'm actually talking with the manufacturer. I'm doing all of this stuff. And she is not contributing. She's not contributing with her time. She's not contributing financially. Like, this is not okay. And so she went to her and said, I really think we need to kind of sit down and talk about our division of labor, our responsibilities, and really revisit, our understanding of who should own what percentage, right? Because I really don't think it's fair. Her friend responded, not with herself. She responded with an attorney and said, if you want me to leave this partnership, you need to pay me $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't even made $25,000. But because the young lady knew that my client was very well connected, they had just spoken with a man who said, you know what, I'm willing to invest several, probably up to $1 million, but you guys need to get some things figured out. Once she realized that, she was like, oh, no, I want the money from the investment. So she and my client were in a years-long negotiation, trying to figure this out. And my client could not accept an investor at the time, because no investor is going to touch that with a 10-foot pole if they are not even aware of who owns what. So that's the danger of doing these handshake deals and going into business and partnership with friends, and you don't have things written, because it can cause a lot of headache and heartache in the long run. So it was really, really, it just really sucked. And so ultimately, if you're going to collaborate or partner with anyone, you need to have it in writing. I don't care how long you've known them. I don't care if it was your mom. I don't care if it's your brother or your sister. You have it in writing. You understand exactly what it is you're doing, who's going to do what, who's responsible for what. The only time you may not need to have something in writing is if it's your spouse. And that might be a stretch too. Yeah. But my husband and I, we're doing something together right now, but we do everything together. But man, I'm like, man, this property we're flipping and putting money into, this is tough. But we know who's responsible for what. And that's different if you have income coming out of one household. So again, nothing wrong with collaborating, and coming together and doing different things. The issue comes in when people are not clear about their role and what they are and aren't responsible for. And there's an unequal division of labor, an unequal division of time, as well as finances. And one party begins to resent the other. And because things were not in writing, you don't have an exit. Business relationships are even more painful sometimes than a real divorce when you separate. And so, as long as people need to treat it as such, it's like most folks do not just, maybe unless it's by way of the Lord blessing you. It's not like you meet somebody one day and you go marry them the next day, okay? And you had this existential crisis and
Exactly.
heaven, no. Most people, it doesn't work out. Like you have to properly vet folks. So that would just be what I say. I think partnerships and collaborations and, connecting and partnering is awesome. As long as you're doing it with the right people who operate with integrity, we're in the same alignment. Even when I do collaborations with people and they're like, oh, I'd like for you to do this and do that. I'm like, okay, I've seen some questionable things on your platform. It's not in alignment with mine. So I'm going to respectfully decline. Do I say that to them? No. I just properly look at it myself and say, I don't think that's in alignment with my brand. Or like I had a young lady who was doing copywriting for me and she was cussing in the copy. And I'm like, there's no way that you looked at anything that I posted if you think that you can present something to me where you're using a lot of four-letter words. That's just not who I am. So that let me know, like, oh, I'm not going to use you again because you didn't even do basic homework. Like, you know,
Hmm.
and again, it's just we have to be mindful of who we partner with and who we collaborate with. But you gotta have it in writing, and just YouTube University and Google School of Law is not going to cut it. I know people love Google School of Law, and then Chat GPT. I'm gonna get Chat GPT to write me a contract. Okay, ChatGPT cannot represent you in court. Okay.
Look, I had to try. ChatGPT was trying to gaslight me into how to properly spell a word. Like, and you're trying to trust it to write a contract.
People
Mm.
do. The thing about artificial intelligence, and I have a certification in generative AI for law. And what I learned is it's great. Like AI is awesome for high level general legal concepts. It's terrible at subjective, specific advice. And what ends up happening is it will do something called hallucinate. And hallucinate means it just makes stuff up. It literally will make ish up because it doesn't know. And so just be really mindful that it's not a substitute for a human. It is not a sentient being, even though people feel like it can think. It's just not a substitute. But by all means, use it for general stuff. Hey, chatty, trademark. Hey, chatty, what's the difference between a trademark and copyright? That stuff is cool. But when it comes to, hey, I just got sued and they told me I had 30 days to respond. What should I do? Mm-mm. You in danger, girl. As Whoopi Goldberg said in Ghost. You in danger. Don't do it. Mm-mm.
And like you just said earlier, like go through, get a consultation call with someone. Like people go through, and I know that people are already investing in a lot of other programs, this, that, and the other, but I don't think that people nearly spend enough time on these other aspects. They don't think it's accounting, finances side of it, and the legal side. Like you pay a whole lot of money for these other things, but this is just as important. And if you don't have these things in place, then you won't be able to have money to look over, and you won't be able to effectively market your business in order to
Yeah,
have it to grow if you don't have these things in place. So I think that it's just so important that you take the time that you need to go through and go over all of these different aspects. And if you can't, something that you would have paid for course, like a $500 course, like that could be invested in getting yourself legally set up. And by the end of the day, you have your checklist, most likely, of what someone will say, like, go through and do this, get these terms and conditions set up for this, get this contract that you're going to have for your one on one clients, get these other things set up, and like get yourself on your way.
absolutely. Please, people. Do.
Oh, well, thank you so much for, you just gave people such a wealth of knowledge, and I think that there are definitely things that people either they weren't sure about, and you were able to help and confirm things for them, insights into things that were just like, "Oh, I didn't realize that that's something I need to take into consideration." So thank you so much. Please let the people know how they can get in contact with you, how they can potentially work with you if they realize like, "Oh, yeah, no, I don't have any of these things together. Let me get it together. How can you help and assist the people?
Absolutely. You can visit my website, creatorslawfirm.com, and click a work with us button. And once you submit that, you'll be invited to schedule a free call with a member of our team, and they'll be able to give you more information about the scope of our services and how we can provide you with respect to protecting your brand, especially if you're saying, I know that I need general counsel or a legal consultation, or I definitely want to protect my creative works by way of a trademark, copyright, or contract. Also, you can check me out on Instagram or Threads. It's my name, Ticora Davis. So I share a lot of fun. I said y'all are gonna learn and laugh. So I
Mhm.
try to create edutainment content that does really empower my community. So I'll definitely love to connect with all of you. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity, Danielle, to come on your podcast and share my smarts with your audience. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. You all go check out everything in the show notes. I'm gonna have it all right there. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
If you want more marketing that works right in your inbox, head to the show notes and sign up for the email list. You'll be the first to know how you can work with me on mastering your marketing.